Welcome to another episode of UWM's Cycle Time. I'm Logan Kotke, and on today's podcast, I will be talking about bicycle safety in the city of Milwaukee, along with guest speaker Mitchell Mankey. Today's topic is about cyclist safety. As many people know, riding a bike in an urban environment can be incredibly stressful and often very dangerous. To start off, I would like to mention a study done by the company Outside. Outside took on the job of recording the information of every cyclist they could who was killed by a driver in 2020, as well as the information from previous years. From this study, they showed that since 2010, cyclist deaths have been rising and that American roads have not been this dangerous to ride a bike on for over 3 decades. They found in 2018 alone, there were about 857 people who died while riding a bike, making it the deadliest year since 1990. So clearly, with the danger of riding a bicycle going up, it is apparent that more action needs to be taken. The answer to this has taken many forms for how cities have attempted to create friendlier environments for cyclists, such as the company WeClaim, who have made eco-friendly delineators, which I discussed with Mitchell. They took recycled tires that couldn't be used on cars anymore, and they turned them into flower pots.
Oh, and just use those to kind of keep it separated?
Yeah.
I like that because especially compared to like if you're just putting paint on the road, there's nothing really stopping a driver from unconsciously going into that bike lane. But if you have something physically there, even if it is just like a flower pot, hopefully it'll... I don't know. I always feel safer when there's actually something physical there rather than paint. So I feel like that's pretty smart. I've been, especially like, I love biking when there's construction, because a lot of times they'll have like little sidewalks full of concrete barriers that you can just bike in between that. And I'm always like, yeah, there's no way. Even if a car tries to hit me, they're going to hit this concrete barrier before they hit me. But literally anything between you and the road makes it feel a lot safer.
Yeah. And I assume that you probably, like, biking at night is it definitely feels a lot less safe than during the day, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. You never know if someone's going to fall asleep. At the wheel, you never know. Like sometimes if you're biking real downtown, I don't know, I might get attacked. I don't know. And when it's dark,
especially in Wisconsin, drunk driving is a very large issue. It's a really big issue.
Oh yeah.
So having a bike delineator gives us something to, like, even if you are drunk, you still see that there's a barrier there. Whereas if it was just a bike lane, you would only see, well, you wouldn't see anything. You would just, you would have a higher chance of plowing into them.
If people, when they aren't drunk, are already sometimes having trouble staying out of the bike lane, it would be abhorrent to see a drunk person trying to figure out where the bike lane is. But yeah, if you have a physical separator there, I would hope, I mean, personally, I've never drunk driven, so I can't speak from experience, but I assume that even then you kind of go, oh man, there's a physical barrier, let's avoid that. Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
These bike delineators are an example of one solution to an increasing need to make safer streets. This need comes in many forms as well. For example, not only is riding a bicycle more dangerous today, with the number of cyclist deaths per year increasing by over 100 in just 4 years, but also people are riding less due to the anxiety they feel while doing it. So you would say that it raises your anxiety to bike downtown?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. What about it do you think affects that? Do you think having, like, being in a bike lane makes you feel less anxious? Do you think that in certain areas of downtown?
So yeah, like, okay, so I've done like a 50-mile bike ride through Milwaukee and going even further down. And I think, honestly, the worst part about it was I just don't trust the drivers. I mean, whenever we were on a bike lane right next to the road, I was like, what's stopping some idiot from just, going into the bike lane a little bit? I felt a lot better when we were on like sidewalks or going through paths. But, I mean, yeah.
This portion of the interview with Mitchell follows an effect that has been partially caused by a larger issue. Another one of the biggest setbacks for making streets safer is the fact that the government is consistently on the driver's side. For example, according to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, It is a cyclist's responsibility to ride 3 feet away from a parked car on the curb. Now, for those of you who do ride on city roads, you know that that's ridiculous. On many streets, if a car is parked on the curb or there is a large truck unloading for a convenience store, it's hard enough for drivers to squeeze through. So how is it expected that bikes are supposed to be even further into the road than a bike lane, instead of it being the driver's responsibility to check their side view mirror before getting out? On top of that, according to Outside, between 1971 and 2019, there were 132 cyclists killed by drivers in the Washington, D.C. area, of which 87% of the time, no charges were placed on the drivers. So there is a clear favorability towards drivers in the US government. However, this is also a worldwide issue. This next audio clip comes from a 2007 Toronto meeting where the mayor at the time, Rob Ford, talked about bicyclists.
I can't support bike lanes. How many people are riding outside today? We don't live in Florida. We don't have 12 months a year to ride on the bikes. And what I compare bike lanes to is swimming with the sharks. Sooner or later, you're going to get bitten. And every year, we have dozens of people that get hit by cars or trucks. Well, no wonder. Roads are built for buses, cars, and trucks, not for people on bikes. And, I feel my heart bleeds for them when I hear someone gets killed. But it's their own fault at the end of the day.
This disregard for safety of the people who should be valued more on the road needs to be stopped. Riding a bike instead of a car has many benefits, including better physical health and mental well-being, saving money from buying gas, a bus ticket, or ride sharing, taking up less space on the road, allowing for more traffic to flow quicker to then lessen traffic jams, as well as being a more climate-friendly mode of transportation. So, what's the solution? Some ways that are currently being implemented include bike lanes, delineators, bike paths, protected intersections, and occasional designated street hours for when motor vehicles cannot be on the road. And while the more intense examples like protected intersections may garner some unhappy opinions from drivers, bike lanes are a common example which have surprisingly positive results. According to one study by Sydney Fioka, accidents occur 50% less when there are bike lanes going in both directions on a road. So even if Milwaukee simply put bike lanes on every street, the number of accidents would theoretically be halved. So there needs to be a shift in the way that people think about bike safety, so that it creates favorability of these important projects in order to make them more commonly implemented. For example, I talked with Mitchell on this idea of how the mindset of drivers needs to be changed.
Because also in Milwaukee, you kind of have the issue of, especially on the MSOE campus, the lights will start flashing red after a certain time, which just turns it into a four-way intersection. So some people see a flashing red light and they're just like, it's a four-way intersection. Let's just plow through it. Because
some
if there's
people
anyone else
just don't understand what that means.
That too. And people are just like, I guess I'll floor it, I guess. And it's just, it's nuts.
I feel like just drivers as a whole need to be it almost needs to be every decade or so you need to take another minute class.
Yeah,
that
hey guys,
over all the rules that have changed and everything you need to make sure you're doing.
Well, that's where what I found interesting is there is in some of these new electric cars, it makes sure it'll make sure that you're conscious in using the car, especially if they have autopilot. One of the guys that I saw basically went on and he put a heart rate monitor on it. So if your heart rate fell too low, it would crank up the music, because that's a lot of it is if I'm driving, because I'll drive down to Georgia sometimes, and that's an 18-hour drive. Yeah. I mean, you can do it all in one go, but I'll admit I'm going down. I've been driving for 9 hours. I'm relaxed. I'm just I'm watching Netflix at home on my computer.
You're not,
and that's a problem.
Looking for things.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you got to have someone else in the car with you to kind of keep you awake, because otherwise you totally just fall into that sense of relaxation. I can't even imagine you just got off your job. It's a rough job. I mean, if you're working 9 to 5 kind of a thing, and you're just on your way home, you've been working all week. It's Friday, and you're just I can't wait to get home. I can't even imagine what kind of mental state you're in at that point. you're going to be relaxed while you're driving. And that's the thing, is like people get so relaxed. All these safety features, like my grandma just got a new car that brakes for you. Like if you start driving up on some, it brakes for you. Now I agree that it's like, wow, it's so cool that it'll brake for you, because if you happen to get into a situation where a cyclist comes at you, it'll brake for you. But then my grandma's like, man, it's so cool, I don't even have to use the brakes anymore. And I'm like, Grandma, no, you gotta use the brakes. You can't not use the brakes. And she's like, no, it does it for me. I'm like, it's not autopilot, Grandma. Like, you're gonna hit a kid or some crap. And I feel like
it just needs to, like, there needs to be a general like instruction manual that you have to read. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people just need to be taught more frequently and reminded more frequently of the rules that change. Like, not too long ago, they made right on red. Like, it wasn't around that long ago, I thought. And so,
and you totally get the issue of people just don't take it seriously anymore. Like when you're 15 when I was 15 and a half, oh my goodness, I was a whole different person. I didn't take driving seriously. I was like, yeah, pass the test. Give me, like, I wonder how fast my car can go. You know, it was a mess. Even right now, when I get in my car, I'm not like, all right, Mitchell, you know,
time to go to war.
Yeah, time to do this. You got to think, you got to be focused. I'm just like, all right, like, how do I get where I'm going? Especially when you have Google Maps and stuff these days. I mean, it's nuts. People, I feel like, put more thought and energy into like making meals sometimes. I mean, if I'm holding a knife, I feel like I'm in a more dangerous situation if I've got a sharp knife and I'm chopping onions versus I'm driving. And that's messed up. That is really messed up.
Yeah. I mean, like, the chances of you, like, for example, if a car hits you at 25 miles an hour, you have a 30% chance of like being seriously injured or dying.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
However, if you go just 5 miles above, like if you go 30 miles, like the car's going 30 miles, it increases by like 20%.
I think they might have told me that in driver's ed, if I'm going to be honest. But like, it's nuts. 25 miles an hour could kill you. I'm going 25 miles an hour and I'm like there's nobody around. I'm going 30. And that's why it's 25 in like residential areas and neighborhoods and stuff like that. And you don't feel like you're going that fast. And I think the thing is like, I drive almost every single day. I got to get to my job. Sometimes I got to go down to campus. Sometimes it's just to go hang out with friends. And it's like, you just get nullified to it. There's nothing new. It's the same thing. You know, I go on autopilot. I don't even have to be fully awake to like make it there. And that, again, is messed up. You just get so used to it.
Like, I feel that, I feel like in order to make the streets of Milwaukee or any city, urban area safer in general, not like for a bicyclist, I feel like not only do you have to increase the, like, make more bike lanes, make delineators, make the streets themselves safer, I feel like it's also just generally, as a society, the mentality needs to be like taught differently and reinforce the whole look out for people that isn't as easy to see as a car and be like a little more active while driving.
I think you've almost got to acknowledge that humans are like that. Like, if you're driving every day, you're just going to get relaxed by it. And you have to find ways of countering it. And ways of countering it is, like you're talking about, delimitators and having more bike trails and reinforcing that. But and that's kind of where I agree with you, that we need those delimitators. Because, again, you can't just, snap your fingers and, change all that. But you can account for it when you're doing your stuff. And I think that's a really smart way of going about it.
Thank you for listening in on today's podcast. If you enjoyed it, click subscribe on your chosen podcast platform, and join us next week when I interview a freshman engineering group on their project to create a new way to lock a longboard. Cycle Time is hosted by Logan Kotke and brought to you by UWM and Odyssey. Music by Logan Kotke and GarageBand. Recorded at Logan's bathroom. Special thanks to today's guest, Mitchell Mankey. Edited and mixed by Logan Kotke.